Hey, what's up, you guys? Good afternoon or good evening, depending upon where you are, and welcome to a very special edition of Danny B Live today. I am going live with Mitch Pater in just a sec. We're going to talk about real estate investing, flipping houses, and all kinds of fun stuff related to that. I think there has never been a better time to get into real estate, whatever business you're in, whether you're an entrepreneur, a real estate agent, or something else. Real estate investing is a great way to build your wealth for the future, and that's what we're going to talk about today, you guys. So let's go ahead and rock and roll. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Let's do this. All right, here we go. Hey, Mitch, what's happening, man? Thank you for being on the show today.
Danny, thank you, man. I appreciate it. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So you guys, real quick, thanks for jumping on here. You can ask your questions, throw your comments into the chat box, which you will see somewhere on your screen, left, right. I'm not sure where that is on YouTube, but check that out. Make sure to follow me over on Instagram as well. If you like all this content in these interviews, make sure you subscribe to the channel and give us a big thumbs up. So Mitch, let's go ahead and rock and roll, man. I'm so excited to talk about real estate investing. You know, I coach real estate agents, and I'm a real estate broker and stuff like that. But real estate investing and flipping houses is actually something that, you know, personally I've always wanted to get into for a long time, but just haven't taken that plunge into. So I am excited to chat with you tonight, my friend.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I actually had my license for a little bit, and that side is completely different. Flipping and is more of a, I would say, a little bit more on the creative side, more of the entrepreneur like route, I guess. And then you have your sales side of, you know, selling houses and doing that sales and service, I guess, you know.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a great avenue, and yeah, we love it, man. It's fun. So
That's cool, man. Well, Mitch, I'd love to hear, I know this wasn't actually your first career, so I would just love to hear, you know, a little bit about your story and how you got into real estate investing and flipping and that kind of thing.
yeah, so it's funny. So I'll go back a little bit here for everyone. Went to school for business and went to Western, got a business degree, got out, and I actually worked. My first job was at Menards. I was a department manager. Yeah, as a department manager, and it's super funny because actually I was in the window department, so I know all about windows, but I don't know much else about houses. So anyways, we did the whole Menards retail job thing. Of course, I didn't like it. I was working on Christmas Eve and all these crazy hours, and you know, it was kind of like the step towards a management position, which was great. But retail just killed me, and I was unhappy. And I remember just like waking up and like being like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of this thing somehow. So a couple years later went by, and I did a different job. I left that job and worked for some family that worked for about a year. And then I ended up at a drywall company again around housing, but no intention whatsoever.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's so crazy. And I remember talking to my stepdad, and he says, all these jobs that you have that you don't like, they're giving you the tools for something maybe in the future. You just can't see it yet. So if anyone's out there and you're like, dude, I hate this job, it's probably gearing you up for something that maybe it's not in front of you yet. So don't give up. But I understand, man. I was miserable at all these jobs. Then at that job, I always liked cameras. I always had cameras, GoPros, and like I was always the guy on like vacation, like doing little or trying to make cool little videos, and I sucked at it. But that kind of led me to learning how to do this video thing. And I actually, when my brother came to me with an idea about going around the United States and going to all these different nonprofits. He's kind of in the service industry in a different way. But anyways, he had this idea of going around and learning about how different community centers could give back to the communities. And well, he was like, hey, I want to do this big trip and I want you to video record the whole thing. And I was like, sweet, but I just know how to use a GoPro. So, and so we ended up buying or investing in this, like, you know, higher end camera and audio equipment and all this stuff, and I'm learning how to do it just on the fly. Well, there was a video guy that put together our video as the promotion of this venture that we were trying to kind of kickstart. You know, it was like a nonprofit in Detroit. In any way, so we went on this trip, and this guy did a promotion video, and we paid him like, I can't remember, I think it was like $4,000 or something like that. And I was like, dang. So that guy just made this video, came and did it in like a day or two, cranked out the edit and had it to us, and he made $4,000. And I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. And like, so that got my wheels turning about like, hey, maybe I could do, like, if I got good at this, I could then do my own thing, not be miserable at Menards or wherever I was at.
Right.
And so I started diving in, and like a lot of what I know today in education wise has all come from the internet and online courses. People that have done what I'm trying to do at a very successful rate. You know, whether that was, so the video thing, I did an online course for that. The real estate stuff, did an online course for that. Like I just educate myself through courses, mentorships, and then YouTube, YouTube University. Like I just, every day right now, you'll see me now, I'm trying to learn commercial, and all I watch is YouTube. So for anyone out there trying to learn a new skill, just go to YouTube. It's free. It's the easiest thing in the world. So anyways, that got me going, and at my job, I started doing weddings. And so I like booked up, I did one wedding, and the video like skyrocketed. There was no one in my area doing video work that like in a cinematic way. So I kind of like found this little niche, and then I like catered to that and just blasted out on all the social media platforms, and just got booked up one year. And I had so many bookings that was making more money doing with the deposits that I made for the next wedding season. I was like, I can leave right now and I'll be fine. I'm set. So I took the leap and did video, freelance video and photo for like 3 years.
Okay.
And,
awesome.
Yeah. And so that was kind of like the trajectory from college to kind of like figuring out like, hey, maybe I'm not supposed to work for someone else. I think I was made to, and it was like, well, that's why you've been miserable, because you've been building someone else's thing, not your own.
Sure.
And so even if I failed at the video thing or the real estate thing, that was what I needed to do, because that was, for me, it was building my future. It was building following my path, not someone else's. And that's not for everyone, but it definitely was for me, because I was just miserable. I mean, you couldn't pay me enough, to stay at Menards or that drywall place. Like, just wouldn't matter to me. So
I'm with you, man. I've been self-employed for so long. It's like I couldn't imagine working for anyone else.
No. Some people just aren't made for it. Like,
right.
That's just not how it goes. And you know what's the bad part about that is they don't even teach you anything about that in school. So
that's right.
it was me just looking in the wrong direction. I was looking this way, like, hey, I got to climb this ladder over here. I got to go do this job and like figure out how to like get up so I can make a bunch of money on this corporate structure or whatever like that. Had no idea that I could create my own lane. Yeah, I know people started businesses and such, but it still didn't click until I kind of went down that road. So
sure. No, that makes sense. By the way, Mitch, I will say, kind of back to the, circling back a little bit on the coaching, training, mentorship from online. I think that's the coolest thing that we can do that now. You don't need to go to a 4-year college. You don't need to spend all this money, because, you got it all right there at your fingertips if you can just take advantage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, obviously we're going in that direction too. Like my parents are like, you still need an education. I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys are so blind to what's really going on. But
totally.
My kid, I'll put him through the main education, and then I'm gonna say, hey, like, yes, you can go to college if you want, if it's even around at that time.
Right.
But we can get you into try these different avenues, and that's what you got to do. I think you got to really just try everything that you're somewhat interested in, and something will stick, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Mitch, to that point, I think once our kids, how old is your kid? I don't think I.
He's 6.
Okay, cool. So I got like 6 and 10 and 12, and by the time they're ready to go to college, I don't know. The whole institution just might be very different than it is
Yeah.
today, especially because of what we've been through this year with the pandemic and everyone basically learning from home anyway, right?
Yeah, this changes the entire game, really. I mean, for business, everything. it's
Yeah,
it's insane, man. Insane.
definitely. I totally agree. Well, very cool, Mitch. So you had the stint as the wedding videographer and photographer, and then doing that business. And then how did you end up getting into real estate investing and flipping and stuff like that?
Yeah. So sorry, my lights are like flickering.
No problem.
Um,
We can't see it. It looks good on my side.
so during that time, I was learning a lot about like I always wanted financial freedom. It was kind of like the hot topic word. And
Sure.
I kind of went down this rabbit hole because during this time of like doing my own thing, I think you naturally go through like a self improvement, or like self development, like because when you're an entrepreneur, you need to be disciplined. There's so much that goes with, hey, you don't just sit back and like
That's
this
right.
is like this is like the grind times 10, So during that, kind of journey of mine, I was reading a lot of books and self-educating, like I spoke earlier.
Hmm.
And that led me down of like, hey, how do I set up myself to get financially free? Or, I'd like to not do the course of work till I'm 65 and then retire. Like that sounds so bad. And um, while I was doing that video thing, it really, really resonated with me as like, hey, I'm trading my time for money. And every video I do, I'm gonna have
Right.
to repeat this cycle. So it's a
Yep.
never-ending cycle of hard work.
That's right.
Um, and so I had to figure out how to take this money I was making and then put it into something that was going to work for me. And so, real estate just kept coming up, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just buy one duplex and just get my feet wet. So stupid me, like just winging it, went out and bought this. I have overpaid for my first duplex, and I still have it today, and I love it. It's probably one of my nicer assets, but it, of course, it's like a really nice one, and it's like, yeah, you're an idiot. But anyways, it's a nice place. So I bought my first duplex, and then uh, did everything wrong in terms of like just you know all the stupid stuff that everyone has. You kind of got to go through it, I think.
Sure.
But learned a ton, and um, so self-managing, placing tenants, just learning, and that kind of got me into like, dang, this rental income is never gonna stop. I mean, and that was another light bulb moment where I was like, if I could just, then I kind of like reverse engineered, like, I want $10,000 a month, how
Right.
many houses is it going to take me to get 10K a month from the cash flow? So now I'm like, oh, how do I do this?
Right.
um, and then it's like, okay, it's going to take 20 houses at $500 in cash flow. That means I need to figure out how the heck do I get 20 houses with the income that I have and all this other crap. And so it just leads you down these different paths. And then you just navigate those paths. You go to the internet. Hey, how do I buy houses with no money? How do I buy houses with other people's money? How do I flip houses to create money? So
Right.
I'm figuring out all these different things, and I'm just picking from different people. Oh, this guy knows how to flip. This guy knows how to do this. And I'm grabbing soaking up information from him and implementing it into my own like thing, I guess.
Sure.
And then I started this business about a year and a half ago, Porchlight Property Group, where we go direct to sellers. So we're kind of cutting out, or aka not going to look at any MLS listings. We are going to, the person maybe has some back taxes, or maybe they're, the 5Ds, the death, divorce, something's happened in their life. And
Uh-huh.
now we're going directly to them and trying to solve those problems before they list it, or if they can't list it, we're there to help for that. So we're basically just helping people get out of their house in a different fashion. And that's kind of led us to find good deals and add to our rental portfolio, but then also flip houses if that speaks to it. So we do kind of, I always like talk about this triangle. There's like wholesaling, there's flipping, and then we have a rental portfolio, and that's all under residential.
Right.
And so that's kind of our like bread and butter. I have like a whiteboard over here that I like look at all of our stuff.
Cool.
But yeah, so that's kind of like the basics of it, I guess.
So yeah, and Mitch, that's awesome, man. I mean, first of all, I will say congrats on making it happen, for yourself. I mean, I love talking to entrepreneurs because, we persevere and we make it happen no matter what. And you've done that. And so that's just awesome. And such good life lessons there. I wanted to dive a little bit into the specifics there. So what it sounds to me like you're doing now is you're finding like the off market deals and stuff like that, which,
Yeah.
I'm in LA and in Southern California, it's hard to find good deals. And so that's where I was going to go, is to ask you, like, so how do you guys actually go about doing that? Are you doing like a mailing campaign or door knocking, or how do you guys find these properties?
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything. And when I talk about all these different strategies, if anyone's starting or trying to figure out which one's for you, just pick one and get really good at it. They all work. They all just take time and, like you said, perseverance.
Yep.
So if you're doing mail, do it consistently. If you're doing texting, do it consistently. If you're doing anything, just do it you have to be consistent. If you're consistent at reaching out to people that have problems, you're going to find something. But we do a little bit of everything. I do pay-per-click. So I use an outside company they do all that. I don't have the time to like just set that all up.
Got it.
AdWords, Google AdWords, so SEO stuff.
Yep.
And so this is kind of like your online presence area, and we're doing, just your typical like general Facebook ads, retargeting and that such. Kind of taken off of that a little bit right now, but and then texting, and then direct mail marketing is a big one for us, and then we'd like to implement cold calling, but we have not yet.
Got it.
That one, I know it works really well in our area. And it's funny you said the California thing is every market's different. So direct mail will work differently in Michigan than it does in California. Texting is going to be completely different in a different area. And you got to be careful with texting. Texting can get you in some hot water if you're not careful. So those are kind of our marketing channels. And then you could really deep dive into, your messaging and, your copyright on all this stuff and how you position yourself. So that's kind of the basics of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So in terms of deals, so you guys are not buying anything on the MLS, then it sounds like everything's kind of off market finds.
That's correct. Yeah, we don't even look at the MLS. I tell my guys, like, don't even send me. I tell people in general, don't send me anything on the MLS. Anything on the MLS right now is going to go for above or at or above price. And those retail agents, just as you know, are trying to get that person the highest and best, which we can't live in that space right now. As flippers, there's no margin. I mean, once in a blue moon, there's something on there for like a flip potential, but it's still going to be really skinny right now. Now that's going to change if things go different. But I personally I would rather go to the source and be there and offer a solution. And if that works for them, that's the way to do it. So if you're kind of getting into this, figure out one of those marketing channels that you think may work in California. There's people doing deals in California every day.
Oh yeah, of course.
Flipping, everything. Yeah.
Of course.
Yep. But
for sure.
I actually know, he just moved to Hawaii, but there's a guy out there I'm kind of like online associates with that does a ton of flipping out there in LA. But anyways.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, I'll connect you maybe and see if he can help you out or give you a direction there. But
Yeah, no, that'd
yeah,
be
so
great. So I love your advice for people who are just starting out. Pick one of those channels. I oftentimes will tell real estate agents when I'm coaching them, same thing. Like, hey, pick one source of business and really go after that, figure that out, and then do your next one. Otherwise, you'll just be kind of running around chasing your
yep.
tail for a long time. So I think that makes perfect sense. So then, Mitch, let's talk about kind of your process, right? So you said some houses you flip, some you'll keep in your rental portfolio. How do you decide, and some maybe wholesale, how do you decide, what you're going to do with the property?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, and it really relies on. So one, I guess let's talk about rentals because rentals to me, I want to keep rentals that are in a nice area. I
Uh-huh.
want them to be like, so for us, there's areas where we don't go to. I will probably wholesale that deal because I don't want to keep it, and I don't want to fix it up and flip it because more than likely it might. Who knows what that area is? That area selling a lot of houses. If they are, then I might be open to flipping it. But rentals, we want a good area, and then also I have kind of like a criteria where I need to refinance out of it. So if
Hmm.
I buy it, I need to fix it up. I need to force appreciation through renovation. So what that means is I'm going in there and I'm bringing up the value of the home because I've done renovations on it. So I'm increasing the value. Now and then when I go to refinance, I pull out all that out my quote unquote 25%, right?
Right.
The everyday buyer needs to put 25% down. Well, I'm buying it and then I'm building the 25% down. And then after the refinance, I'm just carrying the debt. So I have no money into it, but I
Sure.
have debt, you know. So I'm all about leverage. I'm all about, smart leverage, of course, but I'm going to leverage as much as 75% LTV to the moon and back on everything. So I'm going to build the asset column as hard as big as I can by leveraging debt. And that creates wealth. And over time, you know, every day my net worth is going up.
Sure.
Um,
Other people's money, baby.
so yeah, you got it. I mean, we should talk about that because that's a
Definitely.
huge one. Yeah. So rentals, good area,
Uh-huh.
and I have to be able to refinance out of it, and it has to cash flow. If it's a single family home and I'm cash flowing $200, I'm probably gonna just flip it if I can,
Uh-huh.
because that doesn't make it's more of a headache. And if I can exit with like a $30,000 or $40,000 proceed on the flip, I'd rather take that money now. Now, if it's producing 500, that's kind of my number. I gotta make $500 a month after everything. Um, if it hits the 500, then I'll keep that part of my rental portfolio. Now, maybe years from now, I package up 10 of them and sell them or whatever and then push that into commercial or something. But right now it's got to pay me while I wait, and I got to be able to get my money back so I can go do it again. Now the flips, we're looking at, I'm trying to stay above $30,000 on the flip proceeds. So
As a
it
minimum profit.
yes,
Got
yep.
it.
Just because the time, the effort, everything, flipping is a grind. That's
Yeah.
probably that's the hardest part of what we do because you're dealing with contractors, you're
Uh-huh.
buying supplies, you're coordinating. It is like a full-time deal, and we flip, anywhere from 4 to 6 houses a month is where we're trying to live.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so we're doing kind of we're trying to push that. I mean, we're usually got at least 3 or 4 houses in motion at all time, and we're trying to scale that up. Um, but there's a whole like process to that too. So we kind of got my flipping business, and then we
Yeah.
have this wholesaling business, and then we have a rental portfolio.
Yeah.
And not enough people, so come help me out.
No, you got a lot going on, Mitch, for sure. And that, it's super exciting. By the way, we should say hello. We had a bunch of new people join here in the last couple minutes. Reva earlier had said that consistency is king. Very, very true.
Yes.
And then Roberto, thanks for joining us. Roberto says great information. So thanks for being on, Roberto, for sure. Yeah, this is fantastic. I love hearing it right from this. Like you buy properties from the source. I like hearing it from the source. This is
Yeah,
just
yeah.
great. So Mitch, one thing I wanted to ask you about is, you have some cool things that you talk about in your business. I actually saw on your Instagram earlier today you were going over kind of a formula that you have. I think it's an acronym of when you buy something and then you rehab it. Is it like BRRR or something like that you were talking about, which was pretty cool. I would love to chat about that a little bit.
Yeah, so the same guys that I kind of learned the financial freedom or financial literacy kind of from all talked about this process of buying a house, fixing it up, and then refinancing. And I'll walk through those letters there, but
Yeah.
that process basically allows you to buy a house, fix it up, refinance it, and pull out your cash, and you can repeat it. And I mean, it's a big thing if anyone wants to learn more. Just it's a big thing on biggerpockets.com. That's a great resource for anyone that's kind of getting into real estate investing. It's huge. Anyways, they talk about it endlessly. But
Uh-huh.
so the B is to buy it, R is to renovate it. The other R is renovate, then rent it out, and then
Uh-huh.
refinance. And so that process, like I'm saying, is enforcing appreciation, renting it out, showing the bank, hey, I got this thing rented out, it's all fixed up, and they're going to give you, when you refinance, they're going to give you a higher debt amount, but you basically have built your 25% down payment in there by fixing it up. And so then when you refinance, you get your money back and you can go and repeat that process. And basically you can build a rental portfolio with not little cash, but a lot less than you would be able to, like my first one, I put my own money into it, and
Right.
50, 60 grand out of my pocket. That was everything I had. And that was it. And I
Yeah.
was like, well,
Wow.
how do I repeat that?
Uh-huh.
So I was already dead in the water at that point. So there's strategies all throughout real estate. And it's crazy. You can get creative. You can do seller financing. There's all these different things. So when people say you don't have money, that's false. You don't have the education to
Right.
make it happen. So you're actually just telling everyone that you don't know what the heck you're doing. So
Yeah,
sorry,
that's
gonna
right.
put you
That's
on
right.
blast, but yeah,
I think it was Tony Robbins who said, there's never a lack of resources, it's just a lack of resourcefulness, which I love
yep,
with
yeah,
anything, right? And then Mitch, I'd love if you could, you mind running us through a little example of something, maybe even one of your past deals or something, in terms of like the way the numbers would play out on a property for someone if they were interested in
yeah,
following that formula.
yeah. I wonder if I could do. Um, yeah, I'll walk through it verbally. I was like trying to figure out how I could show you, but I'm like
Yeah.
I'm a visual guy clearly with the whole video thing. But
Yep.
anyways, I bought a house back in, I don't know. I'm just thinking of this one. I bought it. Let's just call it 120 because that's easy
Uh-huh.
numbers. We bought it for 120 and we put $14,000 into it. 120 and let's just call it 15.
Yeah.
So we bought the house with someone else's money. So I go out there and I talk to other people that have money, and then I'm like, hey, here's a deal that I'm looking at buying. Would you be interested in letting me take your money, put it into this real estate deal? I'm going to fix it up. I'm going to rent it out and I'm going to refinance. I'm going to pay you back. But along the way, you're going to earn a double digit return that you can't get anywhere else. Oh, wow. That'd be great. I love that. What does that look like? Oh, well, let's just say you're going to earn 10% on this thing. So they're compared to their savings account, which is earning them
Right.
0.01 or whatever, I'm going to give them 10% of their initial investment with us. So I'm going to use 120 of someone else's money to buy it. I'm going to put $15,000 into it, whether that's my money or theirs, whatever. So I'm all in at 135.
And Mitch, that
So
original 120, sorry if I can just ask clarify a little.
yeah,
So you're buying it basically all cash with other people's money. You're not taking
yes,
any loans up
yes,
front.
yes. Sorry, I should have clarified that, but yes, that's completely correct. And the reason we want to do that is I'll explain that in a second here.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just doing some numbers real quick, but yeah, so yes, we are buying with cash or someone else's money, whether that comes from like a home equity line of credit or just some private investor has a bunch of money they want to put to work. And then we are going to do the reno, and then we're going to rent it out and we're going to refinance. And then we're going to take that money and pay him back, the private investor back.
Sure.
And so now after that process is done, we've kept the rental in our portfolio. He's paid back. He's got his, his interest along the way. So it's a win-win situation there.
Got it. Sounds good. And then Mitch, why upfront? Just out of curiosity, how come you don't get financing up front so you don't have to put as much? I mean, so you don't have to buy it with cash.
Yeah, you could. I mean,
Uh-huh.
people do this. People do get debt right out the gate, so you can. The reason I do it is because there's something called a seasoning period,
Okay.
and the bank basically says if you go and get financing on a deal, debt, they're gonna want to see it like seasoned. They want that to be there for so long before you go and refinance again.
I see.
So
Got it.
if I were to do that, I gotta wait like 6 months.
That makes
And
sense.
so if I purchase it with cash, I can do what's called a private money mortgage, and I can set it up to where I can actually refinance right away. So if I run my rehab and I'm cranking on this thing in a month, I got rented out, month and a half. By month 2, I can refinance. I don't have to wait a full 6 months.
That makes
And
perfect sense.
that's huge because I can get that private money, his money back. I'm not sitting here waiting for all this. I'm not paying all these holding costs, right? Because when you
Right.
borrow money, you're paying this guy,
Sure.
$1,500 every month, and then and it's so if you're waiting 6 months, that's like whatever 7 grand or 8 grand or whatever you're paying and just holding the house. So you
Yeah.
want to limit that, yeah.
That
So
that makes sense.
back
Very
to
cool.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully I'm explaining that clear.
Yeah, no,
The
I got it.
120.
That makes perfect sense to me. So let's go back to the sample deal. I like this. This is fun.
Yeah, yeah, it is cool. It's super cool. I wish I could show you some pictures and stuff, but bought it 120, put the $15,000 in. Now a lot of the deals, we're going to talk about the renovation real quick. We want to make it, we want to update it. This house, the guy hadn't lived in it for a couple of years and it was all old, but it just needed carpet, paint, and fixtures. Like that's all you need to
Wow.
do. You don't need to get crazy with it. Yeah. Now we do make some of them a little bit nicer than, for certain reasons and this, that, and the other. But you just want a fresh update. And now I'm not talking like paint on, or lipstick on a pig type stuff. Like
Right.
make it decent. So someone who wants to live there, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And 15 grand can go and do that. So 120, put the 15 grand in it. We're all in for 135. Now I rented it out for $2,000. This house had a lower level and like an upper level, and I had
Wow.
13 on below, and I got a 700 upstairs. So all in for $2,000 to some med students downtown.
Okay.
And for them, that's great. The two couple downtown or on the main levels paying 650 and 650, and then the guy upstairs paying 700. Everyone's happy. I'm making cash flow of like, I think after the refinance, it was like $500. So this is a good
Nice.
example. Now we're all in at 135. So now I go to the bank and I do the cash out refinance, and they're going to come out and appraise the house. Well, I've done my research in the beginning of all this. What does a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, fixed up look like? How much is that? What is that number, right? That number, which is also referred as the ARV, so the after repair value, right? So
Right.
I already know I need to hit an ARV number of 190. So when I go into this deal, when I saw the 124, I knew that if I fix this up and have it rented out for 2 grand, I can hit 190 based on all the local comps and everything,
Yeah.
in the area. Yeah. So I'm projecting that beforehand. Now it doesn't always hit the 190, but in this example, I hit the 190. So if you do 190 times 0.75 is 142.5. So when I refinance at 75 LTV, loan to value 75%,
Yep.
I'm getting paid this, right?
Yep.
Well, I only have 135 into the deal with the rehab and everything. So some
Right.
closing costs and that type of thing in there, I'm at the break even point.
Yep.
So refinance hits, I pay my private money guy back, and I have this, now I keep the house, this is the
Yeah.
best part. And I carry the debt. I'm just in debt. I'm a lot in debt.
Yeah, but
So,
you just created basically like almost 50 grand of equity for
exactly.
yourself,
Yep.
by doing
Yep.
that.
Yeah, and in a safe position. I mean, we're not doing these crazy over leveraged deals where people are, riding on the riding skinny. We got a little cushion there. And we do that. That's the only thing I do now when it comes to rentals. I'll only do it if I get that cash back. If I leave a little in there, sometimes it's not the end of the world. But
Sure.
I'm trying to, and any investor that goes through this, they'll find that you can do that all day long, if that's what you look for, right? So
Right.
if that's what you're hunting for, that's what you're going to find. And I always feel like whatever you look for, you're going to find. So I look for, right now we're looking for flips, and out of nowhere we're just finding flips. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Mitch, that's awesome, man. Well, first of all, thank you so much for running us through that. We haven't done any sound effects here. I got to give you a round of applause. There we go.
Oh, thank you.
Um, That's right. That's right. Thank you for running us through that. I think, it's so cool to see from someone who does this, every day, obviously as their business, to see how those numbers play out. So I have a couple questions for you on that, because I've gotten them in the past, right? So then when you go to refinance that, obviously you need good credit for that, because I've had some people say, well, I can't get into real estate because my credit's not that good. Is that based on your personal credit, or is that like a business refinance?
Yeah, so that's another good question. In the beginning, it was on my personal credit. And so I have this like fifth third identity thing, and I like monitor my credit like a hawk.
Yeah.
So I've always been very aware of that. Hey, like that's like the gatekeeper to all the most important things. So I take that really seriously, and make sure that my credit's always up to snuff. And I recommend that to anyone. I mean, if you're trying to get off the ground, you got to have a good credit. You shouldn't be carrying any debt. And that was another thing in the that financial education in the beginning. I mean, it started out with frugality. You got to figure out, hey, where am I spending money that I shouldn't be? It
Yeah.
all started about understanding money in general. So you got to understand how you operate. I know that for me, that I need to whatever money I have, I should take it and get it out working for me. I know that if I keep it, I will figure out a way to get rid of it.
That's
So
for sure.
I need to put it into something, and that for me was houses. I was like, well, and if it's not my money, I'm going to make sure. Shoot, man, I would not want to be on the end of that phone call if I lost someone's cash. So I take that really seriously. But yeah, so always watch your credit. Figure out how you can pull it. Credit Karma and all that kind of stuff for
Yeah.
free. So.
Yeah, definitely. But so you said in the beginning. Now, is it a business line, or how does the refinance work now?
Yeah, so after you hit 10 houses in your personal name, you're going to have to move over to some sort of commercial lending. And
Got
yes, the business now has its entity, and it's kind of like sufficient, and the banks are looking at me a little different than they were.
I see.
In the beginning, though, yes, it was all in my name, and it was like jumping through hoops trying to figure out, hey, how
Right.
do I keep buying? And that's like a journey in itself, is how do you keep buying rentals in your personal name without having, maybe if there's a lot of implications that like debt to income ratio and all these other things they're going to ask you about. And so
Exactly.
like you got to kind of navigate those waters. Every situation's different, every person is different.
Yep. No, that makes perfect sense. I think such good advice, and I love that you kind of ran us through an example of exactly how you do this. Because if someone's just starting out, I think that gives them a really nice blueprint, and also steps to follow, on how to do this. So that's awesome, Mitch. I really appreciate you doing that. Couple of other kind of questions on the real estate business in terms of this year with the pandemic, with everything that's happened. I just wanted to see how has that affected your business, and then kind of second part of that is I'd love to hear your prognosis for going forward, out of the pandemic and after the election and all these kinds of things.
Yeah. So this year for the pandemic, man, it kind of hurt, to be honest with you. It was, I was in the middle. So in 2000 and this year, 2020, I was in the beginning. It's kind of funny. I was actually just focused on buying rentals.
Uh-huh.
Well, Corona put a little quick turn in that because my lending requirements tightened up, and my
Right.
main bank, the people that I go to for my main refis, were like, no, we're not doing it anymore right now.
What?
Well, I had like 5 houses, that I had paid for in cash from other people's money, and they weren't allowing me to refinance.
Oh,
And so
shoot.
talk about talk about holding costs. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I ended up I paid a lot in holding costs because I was just waiting to refinance. So that hurt me big time. And I never, and no one could really, I mean, I just can't imagine some of the big multifamily guys, but no one would be able to predict that, right? Like no one
Sure.
knows that, hey, you're going to all of a sudden have, this refinance problem. Like that was not a thing.
That's right.
Oh, I'm glitching out a little bit.
Oh,
Are
I can
you
hear
on
I
your
can hear
end?
you fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that hurt me in that sense. But everything, got pushed through, and we got it done, and got the people their money back, and everything was great. And so quarter 2 came, and I'm kind of reassessing. I'm like fixing up these rentals. We got the refinances to go through at some point. I think it was more like quarter 3, but I
Uh-huh.
was like, we need some more money. So I kind of was like, man, and there's a shortage in housing at this point because now everyone's locked up, and this whole thing kind of created this almost like mini demand of housing because people couldn't go out and look at houses. They pulled back originally, and then when things kept going a little bit, the demand was it built up. The demand built up. No one could project that either. We all thought shit was gonna hit the fan, and like
Yeah.
we did. It was crazy. So then I'm like, well, shoot, right now is the perfect time to be selling houses. Like everyone talked about liquidating their portfolios and all this and that. And I was like, we're going to keep what we have, but we're going to start flipping houses more.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so we did that. And like I was saying earlier, where your attention goes is what you get. So what you think about I have a buddy that says this: what you think about comes about, and what you focus on grows. And I love that because it's so true. But we were focused on flipping. So then I started like, hey, how do we do flips at a scale, And back to your thing though. Sorry, I get sidetracked.
No, this is great.
Yeah, yeah. The pandemic though, it hurt us in the beginning, and then it kind of helped in the flipping business because
Right.
houses were going like super quick, and they still are. And I've kind of solidified and understand the flipping business now pretty well. So I think, running at our speed and understanding that, hey, we can pivot if we have to on certain deals and all this stuff. Yeah, I really like the flipping business because it gives us that cash reserve that we want. And we really learned that, hey, we need a bigger nest egg than we ever thought. And this pandemic really spoke to that. So we
Yeah,
learned a lot from that.
definitely.
And being cash heavy is never a bad thing. So
For sure, Mitch. No, that makes perfect sense. And then kind of coming out of that, with the election and with the pandemic for next year, anything that you're seeing, or how are you guys kind of projecting that in terms of real estate and both flipping and also holding for rentals?
that's a great question. I wish I had a good answer for this, but I kind of just, the one beautiful thing about real estate is it's slow to respond. So for the most part, this presidency goes one way or whatever way it goes. usually real estate's going to be slowly, like the response rate is slower. Thank gosh, because if it
Right.
was like the stock market, I'd be screwed.
That's right.
And
That's right.
that's why I don't play in the stock market, because I don't have any control of that. So for me, I like to have control of what I can control. And so that's somewhat real estate. So, as rentals, I think that depends on what happens in the market, right? So if let's say the housing market, I think it's just kind of taper off. I don't think it's gonna go one swing or the other swing. I think it's gonna kind of just slowly like go down. Like the demand will start to go down, supply will go up a little bit, but nothing
Uh-huh.
insane. No like drastic changes, I don't think. Now, 2021 or when things kind of get settled, the dust, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think some of the bigger multifamily and like the hotels and stuff, that rate, you're already seeing that going on. Like
Yep.
hotels are going up for sale. They're getting slammed right now. Multifamily, I think, is gonna, the mom and pops that aren't operating or don't know how to operate correctly they're gonna
Yeah.
sell, because they're gonna be like, maybe they're at 70% vacancy, and they've never had that or seen that, and they don't know how to
Sure.
respond. So I think some of those people will sell, and that's who we're kind of going after next.
Got it.
But yeah, but sorry, what was the second question?
Oh no, just the prognosis, which you kind of answered. You know what? You did mention something I should have asked you about, Mitch, in terms of, do you guys only buy single family homes, or are you also buying, multi-unit things like that?
Yeah, so right now it's all residential. So one
Uh-huh.
to four units. Flips are all single family homes usually.
Got it.
We did just pick up a rental downtown that I might flip, but all residential, one to four. And now we're trying to scale up though, and what I've found is my goals spoke to me in a way that I'm going to need 100 houses to hit the goals that I want to hit, and that's a lifestyle I want to live, and all these things. So I think another good tip for anyone kind of getting started, I think if I did it all over again, I would better analyze my vision and make sure that my end goal matched what I was doing. So what I mean by that is, so if I want to make 50 grand a month, you know, what's that look like in residential? Like I said,
Sure.
it's going to be 100 houses paying me, a lot. That's going to be a lot of work. That's crazy. So if I were to do it again, I'd look at that and say, hey, maybe I should start off with multifamily,
Right.
or maybe get a couple units in single and understand it, but pivot quicker and go right into multifamily,
Sure.
because there's such a economies of scale when you have 100 units.
Yeah.
You raise the rent $50 on a 100 unit building. Your valuation of that whole thing just went, could be millions of dollars, and that right there is so powerful. So I would have probably learned more sooner of that space, and better looked at my goals instead of. But in the beginning, you can't see that. It's hard to,
Yeah.
you know.
No, definitely. I can definitely appreciate that, having started and run multiple businesses for sure. You never know in the beginning where that's going to take you, but it's great that
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
you're analyzing that now, and taking a look at it. And then, Mitch, I was going to ask you, so do you buy only in your general area, or do you venture outside of Michigan and kind of your local market?
Yeah, that's another good question. And right now we're just in my local area. So Grand Rapids is where I'm at, and I do go, a little bit south into this, greater Grand Rapids areas, but I stick around here in the residential space. Now, the reason for that is my rental portfolio is, I want it to be somewhat close to me. I mean, we
Right.
still self-manage, and I plan to continue self-managing and trying to integrate kind of a vertical platform. So
Okay.
I property manage. I have everything in-house is kind of what I'm trying to build. And
Awesome.
that just, yeah, it's just people, when it comes to rentals, people don't care about your stuff more, so if I'm going to have these nice houses that I fix up and just give them to some property management, they're probably going to see a decline in the assets, and we
Sure.
don't want that, because maybe in 10 years I'm like, I'll sell all these, and if I manage them and know what's going on, or my team does, then we're going to see that payday at the end. It's going to be worth it, I think. Yes, strictly in Michigan. My plan is to stay in Michigan unless it's something large. If it's 100 units or something down in Texas or something, well then, hey, I'm on board for that.
Right.
But it's got to make sense to go outside of state. Michigan, thank gosh, I'm in a beautiful state that has cash flow, has appreciation, has flip proceeds are like good enough.
Right.
And I can wholesale. So I can do
Yeah.
everything that I want to do in my own backyard. The only reason I'd go elsewhere is if it's something big.
And for sunshine, right? Like you said in the beginning.
Yeah, well, yeah. Of course, sunshine.
That's awesome, man. Well, Mitch, I got to tell you, I mean, this has been so fantastic. I want to thank you for your time today. I mean, you've given us such great information, just all the way from the beginning, from how you learned what you did and how you've persevered, and then how you've built your business and the formulas you use and stuff like that. So I think that's great. I wanted to ask you before we take off here, just if you wouldn't mind giving our viewers. So I have real estate agents, brokers that watch, but also entrepreneurs, business people, young millennials just kind of starting. What would be some great parting words of wisdom from Mitch that you could pass on to them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think anything in life you need, like I kind of talked about it, is a clear vision. And it's so cliche to say that, but it's so important that you know where you're trying to go to. I mean, you
Yeah.
cannot get to where you're trying to go to if you don't understand it and like know it like very clear. I'm talking like crystal clear. And this was something I learned this year. It was like someone asked me, well, what do you want? And I was like, oh, I want 50 grand a month. And then he said, why? And I was like, well, I could, and then I was like, dang, what? Because it's my dream lifestyle. It, gives me a house and a car, and I can give back and all these things. Then he's like, well, why do you want that? And I was like, and I was like, shoot. So if you got a destination where you're trying to get to, make sure you can, answer those questions. Why do you want it? Why do you want the money? Why do you want the freedom? Why do you want to give back? Why? Because that's what's going to get you to that place. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't do. They think they just want this money. Well, I guarantee it. You're going to get the money and be like, dang, that was it.
Yep.
Like that was it. And you're going to feel empty inside. And it's a lot of people go into depression and like, they're not happy no matter how much money you make. So you have to have a good reason why. And that should be bigger than you. So it's not all about just the nice house and the cars. It's, can you give back and make an impact in your community, in whatever way you can. So I think it's important to know why and to have a vision of where you're trying to go to.
I think that's such great advice, Mitch, and again, so appreciate you being on the show. One more round of applause here, and for your time.
Oh yeah, baby, yeah.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. And you guys, if you have questions for Mitch, we have his social links down in the description. He flies around on private jets all the time, from what I saw today. Our kind of guy, LA.
Oh man, I'm trying to get there. Shoot.
I love it. So good stuff, Mitch. Well, congrats on all your success. Good luck with everything in your business, and hope to connect with you soon again. Thank you so much for being on the show again today.
Hey, thanks, Danny. I appreciate it. You have a good night.
You too. All right.
All right. See you.
Hey guys, so thank you so much for tuning in today. Another episode of Danny B Live. Man, Mitch was awesome. Real estate investing, guys, building a real estate portfolio, whether that's through flips or wholesaling or rentals, is such a great thing to do. If you're a real estate agent, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business person, whatever you do, this is a great business that can help you build wealth for yourself and for your family for the future. And Mitch really laid it out there for us and gave us the blueprint that you can follow wherever you are. So thanks for tuning in again, you guys. Again, if you're interested in any of the stuff we do as far as either real estate coaching or real estate sales, check all the links down below in the description. We do the show once a week. Times have been varying, just trying to change some stuff up. And also on the YouTube channel, you guys, if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and share them. We're doing really well on the channel, getting lots of good feedback. If there's a video you want to see, let me know in the comments below. And if it's something that matches up with our channel, which is all about real estate, business, finance, some current events, and lately a little bit of politics thrown in because it's been on the top of people's minds. But other than that, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys on the next video.